All right. Well, welcome to our latest episode, if you will, of Coaches on Call. My name is Holly Fogel, the 1 Hour Coach, and I am partnering with
Lori Hamilton.
Lori Hamilton.
Title.
And so,
I don't
yeah,
have a title.
you're a master of all. So,
Master ball,
uh,
yeah, some days.
w- so we are back. We are back in action for our Coaches on Call discussion. 30
Yeah.
minutes of hopefully some inspiration and some actionable takeaways today. We decided that we are going to kind of peel apart a little topic called training fatigue versus implementation power.
Yeah.
And as a trainer and a coach, those are two very different roles. And then there's a couple of other roles that we all play as well. And one is a cheerleader, one is a friend, and another is a mentor, coach, and then catfish. So we're going to kind of blend in different roles that we have and really kind of talk about getting our finger on the pulse of how the agents are handling, what I call more of a normal market. Call me crazy, but this is really more of a normal market, and a lot of people just aren't used to it. So,
Yeah.
first thing we want to talk about is training fatigue and what we're seeing out there. And I love to train. I mean, I'm a trainer, but like Brian Buffini says, what is it? Education without implementation is just entertainment. So are people filling their time too much with the training and then not really doing anything? So why don't we start with that, Lori? And
Yeah.
what are you seeing with the agents that you're working with when it comes to this training fatigue?
So I think now I get a mix of agents. I do a lot of new agents, and then of course I do experienced agents. And listen, you and I think, like, let's get real. We've also experienced training fatigue. How many conferences have we gone to together and things like that? But here's what I'm seeing. I think some causes of the training fatigue, outside of, yes, it is entertainment. And I want to get into that, why people stay in training versus implementing. Okay. But I, to me, a lot of it is just what causes training fatigue is the information overload. Like, agents can tend to sign up for everything. Like, yes, I know you're sometimes a sponge, and I think you're looking for something deeper than just what the training has to offer in there. And so you're signing up for webinars and classes, and you're watching YouTube videos, you're watching TikToks, you're listening to podcasts, you're watching podcasts, although watch ours. But but I think that it's just information overload, and then you just shut down is kind of some of the causes of it. And then after all that, there's also just like a lack of direction. I think it's just like
Mm.
you're taking in all this information, and then there's just major lack of direction. Like, which way do I go? Do you have a mentor or a cheerleader or a catfish that's kind of pushing you to take some direction with everything that you kind of you're taking in, right? And let me get back to what I was saying at first. I
Mhm.
was saying, yeah, it's information overload, but I think a lot of people stay in those trainings, like Brian Buffini says, for entertainment, but it feels productive. I think people stay in
Oh.
trainings because it feels productive, right? But it's masking that fear of taking action.
I love that. You just touched on three really good points that I think everyone should take a moment to reflect. First of all, the fact that it feels productive. And
Ooh.
as soon as you said that one, I could see myself in that because I tend to think that when I watch Jared, shout out for Jared, when I
Yeah.
watch Buffini, when I watch Tom Ferry, or who's the other guy with Tom Ferry that you like?
Jason Pantana, Pantana, Jason
Pantana.
Pantana.
There's a lot of them out there. Byron Lazine, he's kind of my new favorite with band.
Yeah.
I am guilty of feeling like, oh, that was good because I'm a trainer and a coach. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
love taking in that content, but really, what am I doing with that knowledge? Nothing. But I want to pat myself on the back and say, oh, well, I know this now. Well, big deal. It doesn't matter what we know, it matters what we do. So I
Exactly.
love the fact that you said it feels productive. I love the
Mhm.
fact that you said information overload.
Yeah.
People, I think, are seeking things that are going to all of a sudden cure their ills by knowing about it. So the
Yeah.
knowing is not going to help you grow unless you start the doing.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that. And then the other one was feels productive, information overload, and lack
Lack
of
of direction.
direction.
Yeah.
That is huge. I think with all the information, we don't end with, now this is the next step. This is the next step. And this, not to kind of take away from our content today, but this does play perfectly into why with Bold Trail, which was previously KV Core, I teach a 15-click system. It's actionable. It's
Yep.
repeatable. It takes an hour, 5 days a week to go through the 15-click system. And it's going to cure what you said. Like you are actually productive. There isn't information overload because you already know what to do. And the other one was it gives you the steps. So the tactics are clicks 11 through 15. So you're always taking action. So funny how my little sidekick there with my 15-click system and Bold Trail fits perfectly with what you said. But I love those 3 points. And I hope everybody takes a moment to analyze those 3 points. So that was great. We'll make sure that we put that in the comments below so that people do that.
Yeah, because I
So,
mean, if you're sitting, I just think if you're sitting in, and I've seen it, I see it a lot lately. But I think if you're sitting in classes multiple times a week, there's nothing wrong with continuing education. I'm not discouraging that. But I think if you're sitting in classes multiple times a week and not taking the actions, making the calls, doing what you need to do to find business, that's a sign. You're just using it as entertainment, taking notes but never opening them again and just never going back and visiting. Okay, I know. I've done it too.
little
Like
guilty.
I know I've done it
Look at
too,
me, I'm
right? But
taking
hey,
notes right now.
no,
Taking
no, no, no,
notes.
no, no. But look, you're using it for something, right? And I mean, if you kind of hear yourself saying, what is that? That like, okay, I just need one more class on this, then I'll do it. I just need this, and then I'll do it. That's a little bit of a sign that you're going to head towards training fatigue and you're never going to implement anything, in my
Y-
opinion.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is so when I'm coaching, not training, but when I'm coaching, I always recommend that people do what I call the Sunday reset. And this
Yes.
really came out of activities management when we have our activities management classes.
Hmm.
And that is all about on Sundays, grade yourself for the prior week. And grade yourself in the areas of how many conversations did I have? How many notes did I get out? How many emails were sent? How many text messages? How many two-way conversations about real estate? Did I have a buyer appointment? Did I have a listing appointment? How did I put myself out there to have conversations? Did I hold an open house? When you really reflect on the results of your actions, right? So, what resulted in an appointment? What resulted in a next step with somebody? Not looking back and saying, oh, well, I went to two trainings on, CMAs. I mean, if you're newer, you're going to have the personal development, but you need to grade yourself 1 to 10, not using the number seven. If you're eight, nine, or a 10, then you're in a good place and you should be looking forward to the week ahead. If you are six or below, then this week coming up, you need to make adjustments because doing the Sunday reset and grading yourself on the prior week will help you avoid drifting because we
Hmm.
don't want 1 week to turn into two, which turns into 3 months, which turns into a bad 1099, right? So
Yes.
we've got to stop that. And the only way to do that is to course correct by reflecting on yourself every Sunday as you look at your week ahead and fill that calendar with good tactics and good activities. And yes, I'm not saying that you take training off the table. Just be careful that you're not falling into this training fatigue.
Absolutely. And it's I might be getting ahead of myself here, but you just talked about like the tracking and looking back at your week. If we were to think about like where I see the reason people don't implement is they don't know, they don't have a tracking system. Period. Like they're not tracking because they don't have a tracking system, so they're not implementing it. But I know I got a little bit ahead of myself, but that I mean, if you're talking about struggles, they don't have the systems. Like if you're not implementing something, you're first of all, you probably have a fear of getting it wrong. whatever it is,
Mhm.
you have that fear of getting it wrong. You'd rather be like safe in the classroom kind of thing. And because you're afraid of getting rejected or fear of being judged, that
Right.
kind of thing. We all have that. I think we're all human. And then I think that you don't have any systems in place yet. Like you don't know how to get the systems, or you don't have the guidance for somebody to tell you. That's where the coaches come in, right? The
Yes,
coaches can
coaching
help
is,
guide you on systems.
and it's in the implementation. I've moved heavy into now with the clients that I work with. It's more of I got to see what you did, and you know me and my tracking, so we can kind of move
Yes.
into like the power of implementation, and really that compound effect that comes after 90 days of being consistent in your four channels. And what are those activities that you can put on repeat that are on a calendar? That we have to, and Jared James says it best. He's got so many good one-liners, that guy. But the one that always stuck with, always, and I am going to his final advance. Are you going to his final advance? You need to come
No.
down.
Maybe I should. Maybe I should.
Just stay with me. It'd be so fun. And
Again,
so I know, and we could hang out at the villages.
at the
Uh,
villages. Yeah.
um, but he says it great. He said, if you focus on the results, you're going to get frustrated.
Hmm.
If you focus on the activities, you're going to get results.
Exactly.
So if we can keep agents on the activities and not get discouraged that, oh, I don't have a result. Hobbs Herder did the study. It's 8 times before anybody even starts to like think of you more than once. It's 8 times before you're even a blip in somebody's mind. So the tactics that we teach, like clicks 11 through 15, some of them are in Bold Trail, but some of them aren't. But if you're doing 1 to 5 activities 5 days a week, activities, right? Not going on appointments. I'm talking about activities to get appointments, to get people to the next step. If you are implementing those, there is no way on the planet that after 8 weeks, you are not going to be in a completely different place than you are today. We just need to get these agents to start and then not stop. And that's the hard part because we're kind of by ourselves a lot. So who's your catfish? And the catfish is that person that makes you uncomfortable if you're not performing. And if you don't have a catfish in your life, I encourage you to get one. Now, I sometimes am a catfish as a coach, and so are you. So
Hmm.
we kind of can hop into the catfish role when somebody seems to be drifting too much and they need to be uncomfortable. And sometimes it's not comfortable for us because we don't want the person to like be mad at us, but sometimes that's what we all need is we need that push to get us uncomfortable because
Yeah.
that's where the growth is happening.
Well, and again, that usually, if you're not implementing, you do have a lack of accountability. You have nobody there going, "Did you do it? Did you do what you said you were going to do?" And so that's where if you're having a hard time pulling that trigger, you've got to have some kind of accountability. Whether it's a coach, whether it's a group that you go to every day, some kind of environment that, okay, how did your week go last week? What are your goals this week? An accountability group. If you don't have that, that's probably a big downfall as to why you're not implementing something.
And those aren't hard to form yourself. You could go on Facebook and go, "Hey, I'm looking for 5 agents that every Monday morning we want to
Oh,
get
that's a good idea.
tell ourselves what our grade was." I have every tracking. I'll link in a lot of the tracking forms. Actually, it's hard to link them in there. They're I guess I could create PDF links, but you could always reach out and say, "Hey, can I get some of your tracking forms?" These forms are so powerful. They're so easy. And I know people are like, "Oh, I do everything in the computer." But I always say, out of sight, out of mind. Like if you don't have your business, like my latest thing is for everybody to have a little, you can't see it because of my background. But anyway, it's a little whiteboard. And
Uh-huh.
the whiteboard is going to track the pipeline. So if you're not tracking your pipeline, and that's what I love about Bold Trail,
Hmm.
um, I'm just going to show it really quick. But if you're not, see, this is an
Ooh, I like
agent's
that.
business in a box. So I have them, and it's all about implementing. So her total subscriber list, she's got 293 people in her Bold Trail account. That's how many people she's actually an option for. If they're not in a CRM, you are not an option for them. And she's devastated because she did not follow up with a prospect for 30 days and they listed with somebody else. So I was talking her off that ledge this morning and I said, we know why that happened. She didn't follow up. The fortune's in the follow up. So it was a kind of a painful exercise for her, but we had to go through it and talk about it. But anyway, she's closed 33 deals so far. So when I'm working with her, I know I can just say, well, who's going to be 34? Well, she's got 4 under contract and they're all closing in July. So her closed pipeline is going to go up to 37 just in July. She's got income. She's good. Okay, we're looking good in the pipeline. Clients, she's got 2 buyers and 2 sellers. So she's got a healthy pipeline. Now she was upset this morning, but this is actually her. She won't care if I share, but these are her numbers. And she has her little whiteboard and I track with her so that it's accountability, kind of that catfish. Now, if her subscriber list doesn't go up, so if she doesn't meet anybody new to add to Bold Trail this week, then she better have been off. Otherwise, she failed already at the top. Who is the new subscriber going to be? I don't know. Maybe it's somebody in her sphere that she didn't have added into Bold Trail. So she took a minute to go through her Gmail and she added 5 more people. She's like, oh, I have 5 people that weren't even in there. They were in my phone. Now her SOI went up from 48 to 52, whatever's going to happen. But this is going to outline her pipeline. So when I look at this, I didn't really need to work on her current pipeline. She's going to be fine for the next couple of months. What I needed to work with her on are the active and new leads, because active means she's talked to them and they're hopefully going to turn into a client. But
Mhm.
she has 52 new leads in her Bold Trail account that she's never had a two-way communication with. They came in from either the company website, her website, or the property boost that she runs. But that's indicating, and that's what I love about Bold Trail. It tells you who you got. If you guys don't have a pipeline in paper up on the board in front of your face, I'm telling you, most agents just don't have their business in front of their nose as much as they should. So that was just a little kind of, I don't know what that was, but let me put back on
Well,
my
I
background.
think what you just kind of demonstrated there to me is, we were talking about accountability. You can have your own self accountability like that. You're looking at it every single day, but having a bigger picture accountability, like a coach or that catfish that we called it, then that helps stay. If you know you have to perform and you have to kind of quote report to somebody, you're gonna start implementing and taking action a little bit more.
It's so true. And that's what makes me think about the 12-week year. You could get your own little mini group of people. You could put it out on Facebook, gang, and just put, hey, who wants to follow the 12-week year system and meet every Monday morning at 7 a.m. and say, what did I do last week? What do I have in the hopper for this week? What activities am I going to take? What appointments do I have? But there's nothing wrong with having a group. Most companies aren't solopreneurs. There's more than every place you go, restaurant, it's not one person running the restaurant.
It's
Doctor's
true.
office, it's not one person running. But for some reason, real estate, like we we end up being so solo, and when you can just talk yourself right into a bad day. You can rationalize why you're not doing something. So accountability is a form of love. It's a form of helping you get where you need to be. So some people can do it. Some people are very good on their own.
Yeah.
But I think it's great to collaborate. And this could be a friend, it could be somebody in a different business. You can have an accountability partner that has nothing to do with real estate. It's just someone that you're doing a check-in with.
Very
And
true.
yeah,
Very
they
true.
can form themselves. But you need to be accountable to something and you need to know what you're trying to accomplish. But I'm telling you, looking at the pipeline by the statuses of where everybody is in relationship to ever doing a deal with you is completely transformational. And it's all about implementing, it's doing, it's keeping your eye on the prize, on the focus, on your relationships, your subscribers.
Yeah. And speaking of, you got very specific there. This one girl that you coach, she has direction.
Mhm.
She made a decision to work on her bold trail, right? I think a big lack, going back to kind of just one last thing I want to talk about as to maybe
Yeah.
why it's difficult to implement is it's hard to make a decision. If you get that training fatigue because you're sitting in 50, 25 classes, you're not it's hard to make a decision, right? So I think the first step to implementation is make a decision, get with somebody to help get some clarity, and like you make that decision. And then one thing that actually we both experienced this, it was helpful whether we kind of realized it or not, was like if you're in a class, whether it's a day training or a several day training, you can, if they don't provide it to you in the training, you can come up with your own kind of like debrief kind of thing to
Mm.
help decide if there's one thing from that training you want to implement, right? So I think like when we did that recruiting 101, you and I, they had, okay, what's your 30-day plan after that? Like,
Yes.
remember,
Mhm.
so if you're going to take a training or if you go to these big conferences with wherever Jared or whatever brand you're with, and you go to conferences, I think you can look at, okay, these were the classes, look at my notes and decide, what did I learn? What will I do? By when, and who's going to hold me accountable? Like, if you just take 4 questions and
Mm.
ask yourself that, I think that could help with implementation.
I love that, and it reminds me of when I've done, different classes, especially on like a product, like Bold Trail, Lead Street,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is I used to say, while you're here, get out a blank sheet of paper and put a line down the middle. And on the left, you're going to put good ideas. And on the right, you're going to put must do's.
Yep.
And I always used to say the must do side should have number one, two, and three. So you should leave today with 3 things that you absolutely have to do within 30 days.
Yep.
And if you will take that action on just 3 things and leave the good ideas on the sheet so you don't forget about them, but don't like try to write what the person's saying. Just take a concept from whatever training you are in. This really helps with the implementation power, is to just write the concept down. ChatGPT can tell you so much about the concept. And then you can even put in there, what are some good action steps? So if you're not utilizing ChatGPT, your ChatGPT, we were joking around the other day, it's become your therapist, right?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of, I don't know if I should be doing that. Maybe I really should be paying somebody, but ChatGPT is, they're pretty spot on. So
So
he, whatever,
make
she.
sure you're using it for implementation. How can I leverage some of these tools that will help you actually do? But I've really moved so much more from concepts and
Yep.
ideas to this is how you get it done. I just did a 4-week part series where it was showing exactly how I coach an agent in person in front of other people. And they just watched us. It was kind of behind the scenes. This is how I coach. This is how you've got to be doing this stuff. And the whole time she was doing in front of everybody. So it was really, if I think it was a great experiment that I wanted to go through because I wanted to see how much we could move the needle in someone's business in 4 weeks. So it was really fun, but it was all designed around implementation. And I think I'm just going to do more of that moving forward.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I just help you get stuff done? And you only need to know a certain amount. So I think the biggest thing you also said was make a decision on what activities you're going to do. What tactics can you take from, reminds me of the think tank document. Boy, we have a lot of stuff we could share. You guys need to email us. We'll put our contact info at the bottom, but um, email us for these goodies. But remember when we did the think tank,
I
right?
do.
We
Yep.
sat in a room with a bunch of agents. And we just came up with the 4 most common pillars for sales channels that real estate agents usually use to generate business. And it was sphere of influence, open houses, social media, and Facebook and expired.
Yes. For sale
Right.
by owners expired. Yep.
Yeah. So those 4 pillars are filled with activities, what I call tactics, action steps, right? And everybody had different actions that they do. Like for working sphere of influence, we filled a page and a half of things that you can do, activities that are working by referral, not waiting by referral. Then we peeled apart open houses and all the ways that you can win in the before stage, during stage, and after stage of an open house. Those were all actions. So if you can fill your calendar with all those activities and focus on those activities and not the results, like Jared says, you're going to win. You're going to get the results. Don't focus on the result, focus on the activities. And if they're in a
Absolutely.
calendar and you look at it as a job description that you're going to be fired if you just don't do it, because these activities will pay you in the form of closings. Unfortunately, we have a longer sales cycle. So you've got to be willing to stay the course and do it even when you think it's not working. You got to get to eight. 8 times of any effort that you put out in the universe, you will be rewarded after between the eighth and 12th time. So 8 is great, 10 is better, 12 is where the magic happens. And you've got to be willing to have the staying power and the grit and the determination. And somebody's got to hold you accountable because you are going to want to drift like you do not believe. And we can't let you drift. Because if you
Yep.
drift, you're not going to make it. You got to start all over again. So you
No.
need that compound effect of 5 days a week. 5 days a week, I've got to do these things. Put them on a calendar and then you'll get them done. But it's a commitment. It really comes down to
It
how bad
is.
do you want this? How bad do you want this? Are you humble? Are you hungry? And are you coachable? I love
And,
that little saying that I stole.
yeah, absolutely. And, we say it all the time, if we've always been about helping you with best practices and building a sustainable business. And like you can't build a sustainable business if you don't implement anything. You can't sit in trainings and going, okay, this is going to make it can maybe make you better, but it's not you have to actually take the action. You can't, steer apart the car kind of thing. You've got to really take
And
action on it.
what do you feel good about? I'm trying to challenge everybody to be like,
Yeah.
I want you to get so good at this that in 6 months, I want to ask you to come and speak about it on Coaches on Call. I want
Yeah.
you to do a class on it. I want you to get so good at 4 things that you are proud of, that you're excited about. So go lean into your strengths. Don't take classes to try to get like take advantage. Are you leveraging what you're already good at? Like that's what I loved about that guy Matt that I interviewed about open houses. He goes, I am so good with people that I had to pick the that whatever was going to get me in front of people because I knew that that's my magic. Well, he started doing open houses every darn week. He was blowing it up right out of the gate because he went where his strengths were. He goes, I can work on other stuff later, but I've got to capitalize where I know I'm already good. So smart. So we need to look at that. What are you good at, and how can we implement those activities to help you get better? Do a self-assessment. Give yourself a grade, 1 to 10. How good are you at your lead generation? How good are you at your lead conversion? How good are you at client care? How good are you at your personal development? How do you fill your week's calendar with implementation? So I think everybody should probably minimize the training right now, honestly. And I
Mm.
train. Oops. I train and coach, and here I am saying it, but I want people to win. And I think there's a lot of stuff out there for the people that understand the power of a pipeline. If
Yeah.
you understand the power of a pipeline, there's a lot of stuff out there for the taking that's going to be exploding. But if you don't have any systems in place and you're not utilizing a good CRM and staying connected with your subscribers, someone else is. That's what happened to that gal. Someone else got her ear somehow. We don't know how, right? But it's got to be us. So if you don't have systems in place to do that and be relevant with good information and timely information for where people are in the pipeline, that's why understanding the pipeline, you're communicating with everybody differently based on where they are. So if you don't have that segmented and you're trying to communicate with everybody the same way, you are not going to win because you're so irrelevant to a lot of people. So you have to be really careful about how you communicate, what you communicate, and is it relevant to who that person is in your subscriber list?
There you go, guys.
Power of a pipeline, power
There
of
you go.
implementation. Hope
Yep.
that you're inspired. What are some key endings to kind of let them chew on, Lori?
You know, outside of what I just said, pick your one thing, do an action debrief template, make sure you're tracking. Like we have tools for that for you. Let us know what you need, but make sure you're tracking and then self-assess. Is it working? Is it not working?
I love it. And try to get to 8. Every little thing you do, deal of the week, not until the 8th week are you going to start to get traction, right? So
Very
anything that
true.
you do open houses by your 8th open house, you're going to be so much better than your first one, but you're never going to get great unless you do it consistently. So, you know, be consistent. That'll turn into efficient and then you become proficient. We want you to be proficient in 4 good areas of your business. That to me is, kind of how to wrap up. How do I do that? And if there's one little thing you can put in place, it's that Sunday reset. Super
Yeah.
easy. Start grading yourself, reflect on yourself for your prior week, and that will help you course correct as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Training is fuel. Implementation is what makes the engine go. So just look at it that way.
Love it. Great way to stop. I appreciate you, and I hope
Thank you.
everybody is doing great. And we hope to see you again on our next one.
Take care.